Hello. This is another test video now on my Acer, on my 11-inch Acer Chromebook, and I got my animals here because we have a message, and the message is: bring all dogs and all domestic animals into your house. Domestic means house bound, house animal bound, okay? Housebound animal, bring into the house. Not leave outside, not leave on chain, okay? Very, very important. So I'm on Nikki Loves Dogs, Nicola Orange and Blue Chrome account, and I don't know if this video is going to be saving itself in here, because on my other channel, on the Nikki Daisy Dandelion, it got deleted when I made longer videos. They got deleted for some strange reason. I don't know why. What technological problem occurred there? It could have been a hacker, I don't know. So I'm checking now to see if it's the computer or if it is the Nikki Daisy Dandelion account. I mean the Nikki Daisy Dandelion Chrome account, Google account. So if that is the case, then that would be very sad, because I just recently made that account and channel and all of this. So, but I'm on my really old channel right now. Nikki Loves Dogs is a very old channel. I've had this one for several years now, and so let's see how this goes, how long this will go. If it gets deleted, then I know it has to do with this particular Acer Chromebook. So with the internal whatever technology is inside of this, okay? So that may be corrupted or maybe old, or I don't know. I had another Acer Chromebook before this one, a white one. That one was, I think it was 13-inch screen. And I had that when we had Kenny, the albino Great Dane. And one time I went into the other room and Kenny was in the living room, and he saw my white Acer Chromebook sitting there on one of these Tupper containers next to the recliner chair, and he went over and he retaliated against the white Acer Chromebook. Kenny was also white, and he thought the white Acer Chromebook, that's another albino entity and a real competition for him, because he was albino too. And he thought, okay, so I'm gonna retaliate now. That's my competitor, okay? She spends way more time on this competitor, with this competitor, than with me. That's wrong. And I'm kind of like parked over there on that, when we had the couch all the way on that wall, kind of parked there. And now that she left the room, I'm gonna take this as my opportunity, and I'm gonna retaliate against that white Acer Chromebook, and I'm gonna hammer the heck out of it with my really humongous foot over and over again until the whole thing falls down. And that was before I glued the computers down onto the Tupper containers. I have this, it's a putty material that is designed to make something stick to a surface, but not just stick, but like like sticks so much, like glue almost. But if you can pry it up, and then it doesn't leave a residue behind, so that's perfect. Paul always likes those kind of things, so he doesn't want me to attach anything to anything, like attach things to the window or to the wall, and then he's gonna have to work 10 times harder to remodel this house. So this came in very handy, this material. But that was before I had that material glued under the computer, and the computer was just sitting on something that would just prevent it from sliding, but the computer would fall over. The computer was open, that was the problem, I think. It was open, and then he hammered down on it, and the computer fell upside down with the monitor landing on one of the corners hard on the ground, even though we have padded rugs. So he must have thrown it down pretty hard. He had power, that man, my goodness. I'll tell you more about this in a second. I have some funny stories about this. But the computer landed with one corner so hard that it damaged the monitor, damaged the screen. So there was a problem then with the light, with the appearance of it, and so it didn't take very long after that that the computer kind of like completely went into a state like a shock state sort of, and then it kind of shut down. So, and things got stuck, and so it wasn't working anymore. We had to put this into our hazardous waste box. We have a lot of electronic stuff from the past in there, so we have to bring this to the hazardous waste place, designated hazardous waste place. Do not throw that into the trash. That contains toxic materials, toxic metals and stuff like that. You don't want that to end up in the groundwater or in your well particularly, so, or in the ocean where it can harm aquatic life. So I'm always making sure of this. I'm always reminding people of those kind of things. That's very, very, very important. Also batteries, you know, old batteries. This computer contains a battery, for example. So I think a lithium-ion battery. Any kind of battery, whether it's rechargeable or like a one-use battery, whether they're acidic or less acidic, whatever the material it is that's inside, it's not meant to be thrown into the trash and then ending up in landfills and getting into the groundwater. So it's very, very important to pay attention to that, and to bring old electronical materials and batteries and motor oil and old pharmaceutical drugs and any kind of pesticides, or any kind of toxic material, bring that to the hazardous waste place. There should be one everywhere in every community worldwide, hopefully, you know. So I'm not sure about the third world countries, but if you're in a developed country, then your country should provide that for you, and that should be free of charge, really, you know. So to bring something there should be free of charge. Actually, what I suggested in the other town where we have another property, there was a lot of corruption going on all the time. We were helping the local environmental stewardship group at that time, and I had a couple of really good ideas. And then I was wondering, how come my ideas are not heard? How come that nobody says, spot on, let's do it, we are all on board of helping the environment, that's why we're here, right? No, that's not why they were in there. Some people used it like a cult or religion. Some people used it to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And some people used it like just not to be completely alone, to eat with other people. And the Grand Rider was doing it for completely different reasons. For monetary reasons. Monetary reasons. Okay? So, and she wasn't even green. She wasn't even liberal at all. I found out later in conversations. So, and then I found out, total corruption here, you know, it's just for financial gains, the whole thing. Very sad. It's almost like Paul and I, and maybe there were 2 other people, who came there for the right reasons, to help the environment, to help the wetlands and the dunes. So, and we did really good work for them. We even got them a $50,000 grant. Then they got a match grant even from the government. So yeah, we did really good work there. And yet most people didn't like us. They felt kind of like we were taking their jobs away from them, particularly the people that were also hired for pay, doing dune watch, dune beach guarding and all of that, and we did it for free. So I stopped an entire community from being sprayed with pesticides in the nick of time. I saw that happening. My goodness. That's when I found out how corrupt all of these people were. It's really, really heartbreaking. So yeah, a lot of people, they claim to be environmentalists, but if you look really behind stage, you know, they're not that environmental after all. So I'm not even a liberal, and I'm a very strong environmentalist, because that's the right thing to do. You know, that doesn't have anything to do with some kind of political affiliation. That has to do with being a compassionate person. You're green, like me here. Yes, being green is good. Yes, it's good to be green. Okay, very, very important. Important to bring your dogs and all of your domestic animals into the house, into the warm house, and your children. Okay, you don't leave your husbands in a t-shirt and shorts in the middle of the winter in South Dakota, okay, outside chained to a doghouse. You don't do that, right? No, you don't do that. Okay, so then don't do it to your animals. Don't do it to your pitties. Don't do it to your pit bull terriers who have almost no hair. Okay, don't do that to them. Okay, that's abhorrent. And I've seen that PETA video. Okay, and I screamed, sobbed, and cried non-stop for a long time. I was completely shaken up after I saw that video. I had to rest. I had to take a nap. I can't stand it. Absolutely cannot stand it. This is too much. Okay. And that's why I feel absolutely compelled to do animal rights activism. Okay. Because it's just one more voice, it's one more signature that counts. Okay, and your signatures, they count, and that's why I want people to come to my Facebook pages. Nicola Redwood with 4 Ds and Nicola Dandelion. Those are my 2 current Facebook pages that I am using. Okay, maybe in the future I'll just use one, but for now I'm using both of those. And I post petitions there all the time from other people. I also have my own petitions that I'm running. I have an ongoing petition to give animals personhood rights. Okay, it's very important to me. So I'll do this for the rest of my life. Okay, it's very, very important. So I also want to make this to calm the nerves, because it is very nerve calming to have I have to have these cushions here for my arms to lean on. I personally find it very calming when people make these kind of motions in front of the camera. That's very relaxing for the nerves. Yeah, and the other funny story is about Kenny, the albino Great Dane. I made my favorite video with Kenny is the Buddha had something to say, and that's on one of my dormant channels from the past. I forgot now which channel. I have so many channels now because I had so many technological issues all the time, and I didn't know what it was. So I am not a hacker. I'm not very informed about computers and how all of that functions, and about programming and all of this. So it was hard enough to learn just the basics through trial and error and all of that. The most important thing that I learned was how to put my computers back to factory setting, because I constantly had problems in it. All kinds of viruses and spy and spamware, Trojan horses that opened up with Dr. Phil's spyware protection in quotation marks. I talked about this before. It's ironic and it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The corruption. I mean, the outrageous corruption that people dare to do. It's really amazing. It is amazing. And they don't seem to have any problems with unbelievable lies and deception. No, they don't have any problems with it. That is the average human brain. So, and that's why we need therapy help centers to heal all of that. So there are some funny stories with Kenny Redwood, the albino Great Dane. He was here before the Papa Dog. Okay. Kenny left us in December 2016. Then we got the Papa Dog like 2.5 months later, which was very, very quick. Now we're out of a dog for over a year, and my life is not the same. Okay. Totally different mind state now. Very, very different. It's very crazy what's going on. So, but I try to do pranayama exercises, yoga, meditation, also physically outside. Qigong exercises, very, very important to drain out like excess tension inside of the brain and the whole body, the shoulders in particular. So, and the arms, because the arms and our hands, that's where a lot of tension is in it, because so much stuff flows through it. You know, our actions go through the hands and the arms because we are constantly typing. So there's so much stuff going on, you know. and that needs to be relaxed, and that needs to be shaken out of the body. You know, that's why shaking the body, like completely crazy, shaking the body out, shaking your arms out, just like this, feels really, really good. You know, that shakes out all that tension, and the legs too. And I like to shake my legs all the way up, and it feels really good. And then do a lot of stretching and all of this, and then the belly and the booty dancing is very, very, very helpful. Also, it really tones up the entire body. It tones up unbelievably many nuanced muscles and tissue and all of that in the back too. You know, it's very, very good to do that. It's very helpful for the spinal cord to do these kind of exercises, you know, these kind of dance exercises. For men too, you know, don't be such pride babies all the time. Yeah. So you need to dissolve that ego, pride, or, you know, laugh more about yourselves, you know, shake that out, that tension, and, you know, this tension and the shame and the pride and the fear and all of that. Shake that out. It's very important. That's not good for you. It's a very stagnated energy that's hanging in people. I see this all the time on the internet. So I hope that this video is not going to get deleted, because it's a good video. We have a message. It's good. So, but anyway, when we had Kenny, it was amazing. Kenny was the blue god in living form, the incarnation of the blue god, the infinite cosmos. His eyes were bright light blue, unbelievable. And you can see that in the video that I make. The Buddha had something to say. Kenny and I sitting on the couch all the way on at that other end of the living room, and I was on my kid camera. Kenny did very heavy French kissing with me, which I had never seen ever before any dog do. I've never seen this with any of our other dogs. Papa didn't do it, and it will never happen again. That was absolutely unreal. It was like, Kenny was like outer galactic. He really was. Unbelievable. And yeah, how long were we together? For like, I don't know, 8.5 years, something like that. More like, I don't know, 8 years and 9 months or something like this, approximately. He died just a few days before his 9th birthday, so he didn't live very long. He was huge, you know. The huger the dog is, the shorter is the lifespan. He was an albino. He had genetically built-in sensitivities and health issues and vulnerabilities, sensitive skin, sensitive eyes. The veterinarian, when he first saw him, he said, "Poor eyes," he said, because he knew that those eyes were so sun sensitive. And when we first took him to the beach, he just wanted to turn around. He was blinded by the sun, even though the sun was setting. And I felt terrible, and we thought about getting him sunglasses, but they would come off, and that's just crazy and doesn't feel good for dogs. So then we just went out there with him when the sun was already at the horizon, little bit like a vampire. So we went hiking with him a lot, and he was very, very powerful. And when Paul was walking him, Kenny would pull Paul face over into the ground many, many times. And my friend Rita and I, we would always be joking and laughing about that. And I would always say Paul fell in slow motion again, face forward, with his whole face into the ground, like into one of those piles of earth that was dug up by a ground animal, and into pitfalls and constantly falling forward because Kenny was pulling too hard. One time we were at the harbor. I was on the internet on my computer on public wireless. We were still living in the motorhome. No, we weren't in the motorhome. We lived in the motorhome for 3 years with Samantha. So when we had Kenny, we had that other house already. But we were still, at that time, we were still doing internet at wireless places. So we didn't have, for some reason, we didn't have internet yet. So we were still watching TV at that time. So we were at the harbor. I was doing something on the internet and in that motorhome, and Paul was walking Kenny around at the harbor, and I saw with dread from the far, they were already way far at the other end, I saw Kenny bolting off after another dog and pulling Paul face over again into the ground, and then dragging him for like 20 feet or something. I was like, oh my gosh. I came running out, and people were all, they didn't know what to do. They went over there, are you okay? Trying to help. And I think then he ran off, and somehow we got him back, and then people came over and talked to me, and I explained to them that this is not the first time that this happened, and I laughed, and then they laughed too, and they kind of felt a little bit guilty for laughing. But yeah, it has its situational comedy in it, so that's what the situation is, you know. And then Paul came over all bruised up and real mad that I was laughing. He was so mad that I was there talking to people, laughing about him, but I wasn't laughing about him. It was just funny, the whole situation, you know. Kenny pulling this, you know, this man, Kenny weighing more than this guy, you know, and pulling him out there into that gravel. Oh man. But I said, no, I'm not laughing about you. I'm sorry, you know, I'll bandage your wounds. And it's absolutely horrible. We had to put Dr. Scholl's anti-infection formula on it because Paul his skin gets infected easily because he has type 2 diabetes. So it's terrible. It was just, when these people came over and the way they were looking at me, it was just, when I had to explain these kind of things, you know, so explain what always is happening, you know, that Paul gets really mad and is really helpless with Kenny, and so that was our situation with the blue god in dog form, in real actual dog form. So unbelievable being. And when I made that video with him, the Buddha had something to say. He was kissing me. He was French kissing me in that video, and twice actually, for a very long time, and it was amazing, and so passionately, you know. And it was right around that time when there was this bestiality, I don't like the word, when there was this outrage going on, and then people were all like on the same bandwagon that needs to be outlawed, and that cannot be allowed, and everything, you know, when there was a contact like this between an animal and a human, it would be interpreted as sexual, and that would be sacrilegious. That would be, people were all up in arms against it, when there's much worse things happening in the world, right? But much worse things. But I talked about this before in my videos, that I have a very, very crystal clear view on this. The French kissing with a dog, any dog, whether it's a female dog or male dog, it's interesting though that it is the male dogs doing that with women. It's very interesting. So obviously, so for the dogs, that there may be something romantic going on in them. But for us women, the dogs are our children, they're our babies. So for us, this is not sexual. There are very few women who have those kind of relationships with their dogs that exist. I've seen this, and they probably, yeah, they get excited and all of this. But I doubt, you know, and I'll bet you $1,000 that they don't have like some kind of, you know, like a crush, or like some romantic feelings, or like, this is my husband. No. You know, that kind of stuff. No, it's more like a, it's kind of like a fun type of, it's more like, yeah, it may be sexual in some way, but not in the sense of so totally focused on the animal with that. More like, oh, this feels good or something, but the animal's still my child, my baby. I think in that sense. So for men, that may be different. For men doing those kind of activities with animals, I've seen documentary films on it, and they were talking already differently about this than the women were. So for the men, the animals were actual partners in that way. And yeah, I understand all of this, the feelings, but again, I said it before, when two different species have this kind of carnal interaction, then the female can go into a toxic shock. Whether the female is human or an animal, can go into a toxic shock. And they do. And one horse died from that. And that's why I say that's wrong, that's unethical, and that needs to be outlawed. Okay? But a woman French kissing a dog, that's not sexual, and nothing terrible is happening there. Okay? That's just a very sensual, mutual enjoyment, and that should not be banned or something. But at that time, they made such a fuss, and it was all over the place. When, I don't know, when it was 2015 or something. And I was so scared that I had to edit that out, the French kissing part. So just to be on the safe side, I didn't. Today I wouldn't edit it out. No, I would like, no, absolutely not. Okay, this is not wrong, and I'm gonna show it. Okay? But at that time I was a little bit more timid yet. So I've gone through a lot of psychological transformations throughout the years, you know, because I was working on myself. I'm doing the inwardness process, I'm healing myself, and the more I heal myself, the more I stick to my convictions, and the more I am courageous also in standing up for justice. And so that's why I don't judge people when they don't stand up for justice, because they're timid, they're intimidated by society and by authority and, you know, law enforcement and the jurisdiction and all of that. And I understand. Okay, I've had conversations about ethics with people in jurisdiction who were the ones in charge of giving permits, like, for example, wildlife rehabilitation permits. where we were desperately trying to get a wildlife rehabilitation permit from these type of authorities. And this one woman I was talking about, it was like, it was worse than talking to an inanimate object. You know, it was like, if I talk to the couch here, the couch will not object. The couch will just say, okay, whatever. You know. But the lady I was talking to, she was like in total opposition to us, to animal rights activists. She was like, she was identifying herself with being on board with fundamentalism and right-wing politics and all of this, being a complete Republican or whatever, libertarian, I don't know. But I had many of those conversations with very hard-headed people that were in total resistance to helping the animals. It was heartbreaking. It was very sad for me to see. It made me very angry. I went through a lot of crying and anger and all of this with people. So, but I'm starting to understand people more and more now. I'm getting to know more people, different people that come from very different schools, different backgrounds, and I see now that these cultures and these backgrounds, they are so vastly different from one another, and particularly to my own background, where I come from an extremely liberal background. So I can see now they're afraid actually of wrapping their minds around all kinds of things that will go against their religions in particular. So that's why they're in such tremendous resistance. They're very terrified of different views. But, you know, the more I get to understand people, the more I can understand where they're coming from, the better I can communicate with them. And I'll be straightforward and direct, as I always am, but I will be more patient, and I will be more gentle in my approach. So I will be more careful not to be bulldozing, which Teal Swan was talking about, and I was like, when she was talking about this, I was like, okay, that's me. I'm a bulldozer, you know. So I have to be more gentle, you know. I'm not gonna be doing the lawn mowing over everyone, cutting everyone's heads off, everyone's egos. So, you know, like bulldozing over people's egos, like chop, 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 like that. No, I don't want to do that. I want to be more careful. Okay. But I want to offer my perspective on things. I want to offer the truth. I want to offer compassion, empathy, and that those are the things that matter. And in that conversation with that wildlife permit lady that just totally refused to cooperate with me at all, I brought up to her, she was arguing, and she said, you can't do this, and this is actually against the law. You cannot approach a wild animal. There was a sea lion in the harbor with a fishing net band embedded in the neck, so deeply embedded that means he had been growing into this fishing net. That's how long he had, for years must have had this band around the neck. And he was growing, and this noose was not widening, and his neck was growing, and then there would be this it would embed itself into the neck, like if you put a ring around a tree, the tree will grow over that. But with a live animal, you know, that's not going to happen. So that would just cause a festering wound all the way around the neck. It looked absolutely horrible. Pus and blood was coming out of it. I cried. I couldn't stand it. And that was in 2009 or something. Yeah, I think. And I tried to get Sea Shepherd on board, and I already had 4 people that said they would be helping me. You know, Allison was one of them, Paul Watson's ex-wife, and a lot of stuff was going on at that time, also with their relationship. And then Paul said, you know, maybe that's the reason why she didn't write back, because she wasn't too much pain, so she couldn't deal with any of this, because he left her and for someone else. And I took that personally. I thought that she just dropped me, you know, with this effort of helping that sea lion. And I did a lot of legwork on this to move us forward with this, so that we can actually help that sea lion. We had a veterinarian on board who was willing to help also, but we all needed to get these wildlife permits, or it wouldn't be legal to do. And they asked Paul Watson himself, and he was briefly in this email, in this conference email that we had for like about a month or something. And he said, be very careful with these very large mammals. They can be very dangerous. And a veterinarian from San Francisco, she said the same thing, and she said that we cannot risk our stuff to help with these kind of things. And then she accused me of anthropomorphizing, and that was so unbelievably annoying. I felt like throwing a cake in her face. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to mention any names now, but that was just unbelievably annoying, was that. So, and you know, I wasn't as equipped with information and with good argumentation at that time. So I just said that, yeah, but it's obvious that sea lion is in danger, and he is right there in the harbor at the very first one of those docks, because obviously he needs help. And we've seen that many times, that whales or even whale sharks that were entangled in nets and couldn't get out, they would come up to the fisher people and ask them for help. So, and that lady will dismiss that and say that's just anthropomorphism. No way. Listen, that whole word needs to be put into the recycling bin. That word has no validity at all, because all beings are very similar. The beings, the crocodile and the giraffe and me, we have very similar nervous system. Okay, we have similar needs. Crocodile is injured, comes up, needs help. That's not interpreting some kind of human characteristics. He already has these human characteristics actually in him. Okay, so it's not some kind of interpretation of it. Or the giraffe will come up to me and say, Nicola, someone cut my horns off. I don't know if they cut the horns off. The antlers. Yeah, no. Help me, we need to stop the poaching. And I'll say, yes, I will, for sure. They need to be head-bolted. Spot on. Yes, spot on. We don't want poachers in the world. We're sentient. We want to live, right? That's not some kind of hocus pocus interpretation. This is reality. They're sentient beings, okay? They have brains, you know. Some brain is this brain is a little bit smaller than this brain, okay? And this brain might be bigger than this brain, okay? So, yeah, yeah, it is bigger than that brain. That doesn't mean that one person has more validity or the right to stand on some kind of elevation in terms of rights or in terms of beingness or having more privileges to exist. You know? No, they have the same privileges to exist. They are just as alive and well and sentient and loving and deserving of love and happiness. Okay, so and the sea lion, he deserves to be helped. You know, he deserves to have a veterinarian come and to give him an anesthesia, maybe like one of those darts, you know, and capture them. Have 10 strong men hold that animal up, protect him from drowning, and put him on a boat, and then operate this fishing net band out of the neck, and treat it with antiseptic materials and help it heal, okay, bandage it and bring him to the Marine Mammal Center. So that's what he needed. So much later, I don't know if that was the same sea lion. I hope that was the same sea lion. Much later they found a very large male sea lion with a fishing net embedded in the neck in San Francisco and the Bay Area. So that's much further south from here. And in San Francisco, there are a lot more people. There's also a whole lot more liberals, That's what I like. That's the one thing I like about liberals, is that most liberals are on the side of the animals. Okay, that's what I share with them. Okay, so I have some liberal views, obviously. I have some conservative views as well, but I don't go by political affiliation. Most people unfortunately do, but they have a lot of liberals, they have a lot of intellectuals in San Francisco, and they have a lot of animal lovers there, and they saw and a lot of people saw him out there in the harbor with the fishing net band embedded in the neck. And I hope it was the same sea lion, because they helped him there. They put so much pressure on the very same veterinarian that I talked to, that she was under so much, she was in resistance, and she probably was just as cold to them as she was with me, but they put so much pressure on her. More and more people put pressure on her. Then they put pressure on the media, the local media. Then the local media, they were starting to write about that, and that's when that didn't feel so comfortable anymore to the veterinarian who was in charge of the San Francisco Marine Mammal Center. And so when there's negative publicity coming like this, that's enough pressure then. And so I'm telling you, you know, it is those kind of actions, those are group actions. We have to do this together, okay? One single person is probably not going to be very successful with that, going against some institution or government or mafia. But if we are enough people to stand up for the animals, or to stand up for the earth and for justice in general, then we can get something done. But it takes all of us, and signing a petition is very important. That's not enough though, okay? We need to do more. When you see an animal in need, you have to call the Marine Mammal Center. You have to, and if they are in resistance, if they don't, you have to monitor the situation. If they don't do anything, you go to the local newspapers. You talk to them about this. You talk to law enforcement. You talk to the harbor police. You know, you talk to anyone you can talk to about this. You get people involved. The more people get involved, the more we can accomplish with these kind of things. So that's my message to the world. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.